Recently, I got into an argument with a friend about the difference between opinion and truth. I have to say, this kind of thing really tends to get my goat, because everything I've ever argued has to be based on truth, otherwise anybody could say anything. But the world is full of people who argue, and I'm bloody sick of ending the argument with, "That's your opinion." This is lazy, and it's stupid, and I'm going to tell you why. There used to be two big schools of philosophy in ancient Greece, right? There were the philosophers who practiced the study of knowledge, and the sophists, who studied dialect. Basically put, a philosopher wouldn't try to argue for a point they didn't actually think was true, but a sophist would argue for whatever caused him to gain personally. Basically put, a sophist was Greek for crazy, litigious bastard, but because of them, we're stuck with sophistry, the idea of arguing without thinking about what you argue. But you could say something like, is there any truth to begin with? And it's true. Complicated ideas like justice and beauty do have a lot of opinions about them, and they can't all be wrong. But truth is something that's real, and it does exist. Take a look at this jumper I'm wearing. It's woolly. It's kind of purple. It's covered in cat hair. If it was brown, made of cotton, and covered in dog hair, you would still know it's a jumper. It could be any colour, or large enough to put in a house, small enough to put in ants, and you would still know it's a jumper. Why do you think this is? It's because you understand what a jumper truly is. You could call this the enlightenment of the jumper. Now, I'm quite happy to accept that a lot of things are hard to be enlightened about than a jumper. What about justice? What does justice even mean? It's fair to charge about this guy this amount of tax? Is it unfair to arrest these people? It's complicated. And as a result, even people who think about it all the time will have their opinions vary. But let's say you're driving down the street and the car in front deliberately slams on the brakes. The driver immediately tries to sue you for the cost of the damage because he claims it's his opinion that the accident was your fault. There are no cops there. There are no witnesses to verify your case, so you lose a lot of money on the fraud. Did he understand it was unfair to crash the car like this? Probably. Did he care about what was truly fair so long as he stood to make money from it? No, not a chance. Simply put, any time somebody strays so far from what is obviously true and claims it's their opinion, they've got something to gain from it. Or they could have something to gain from it. They could be completely insane. They could be both. Vernon Howell, later known as David Koresh, he was famous for leading the Christian sect the Davidians in 1993. This is all common knowledge, as is the fact that in this cult he dissolved the marriages of his followers and claimed God said he could sleep with the wives, and only he. Did these sound like the types of actions of somebody who really knew what God was, or does it sound like someone who was really enlightened to what is fair? Of course not. But he had a loyal group of followers. He had a bunch of people's wives to sleep with. What does he care about what God is? What does he care about what's fair? He was either rich because of this lie, or because, as I said before, possibly completely mad. If I recall, he led the entire sect to their deaths in a siege against the ATF. Can't have been that close to God, could he? But I've digressed. To get to the bottom line, truth is something that cannot be argued with. You could argue this jumper is a jumper, and I could argue that it's not, but I'd be wrong. You can, opinion is variation within the truth. You can point to my jumper and say it's a bit more like a sweater. Can't really argue back. I can respect that idea of clothing is a little bit different. Finally, a lie is an opinion where the person telling me is misguided, stupid, or they have something to gain from it. If you pointed to my jumper and told me that God says it's not a jumper, it's actually a fish, then you're wrong, and you're misguided and stupid. Or if you told me that my jumper's not a real jumper, you could sell me a better one. Then you could well be lying to me, and I don't have to stand for it. Or you could have a better jumper, and I want to give you my money for it. That's advertising. I hope this has clarified things for you there. And just because he says something doesn't actually make it so. Thank you.